It's time for Today in Politics, and I'm quite interested to speak about the machinations of the ANC. So we saw yesterday the KZN PEC announcing that Mayor Gumede, her leave would be extended, which I thought was quite interesting because you essentially have a party political process have an impact on the running of a metro. Ideally, I think it is the council that's meant to decide whether a mayor is at work or not at work. So that's the first thing. And what does this tell us about the ANC in KZN? But also, Jackson Mthembu, Minister in the Presidency, issuing a statement saying, we're going to ventilate the issues, we're having a press briefing. And then a few hours later saying, actually, no, we've spoken to the officials of the ANC and they've decided, you know, we don't need that briefing anymore, which I thought was quite interesting.
Which then raises questions, right? So when you made the initial statements, had you not spoken
consulted?
to the officials of the party?
Yeah, so let's hit the first one first. The ANC in KZN. So the power of the PEC has come to bear, and I think, like you were saying, it's actually the legislature that's supposed to be deciding. But as our party political system works, the party has a lot of power on what the legislation caucuses do. And that's what they're using. They're exerting that power to say, we're withdrawing our person, and we're bringing in another person, and they have the ability to do that. The problem that we have with this is, number one, it's a 7 days extension. So I'm trying to figure out what can you possibly do in 7 days that you've not been able to do in 30 days? Because honestly, by now, they should have come to some sort of resolution. I think where the challenge is going to come in for the PEC is that the strength of Gumede's base in KZN is the thing that's going to be the hardest to overcome. They're not just dealing here with somebody who, you know, has marginal support. It's like the Jacob Zuma instance. When you have a lot of ground support, how do you then just combat that as the top structures and say, you know, what the branches say don't matter? So the ANC needs to figure out how do they get the branches on board with its decisions and its processes of ethics and discipline and not cause an entire collapse in the province. It's really going to be interesting to see how they manage it. On the second issue, wow, could we be less clear about which ANC is speaking at which time? And a few days before that, when the president put out a statement, I thought that, I thought the president shouldn't be putting out statements from the presidency about things that happen in CR17. It just doesn't make sense. But on the other hand, this idea of full press conference, who's going to be there? I mean, it would just open a new can of worms. So the management of this situation, they're clearly in uncharted territory because they don't seem to know what they're doing.
He pretty much admitted that the emails were authentic, right? And then went on to say, look, guys, I did know about some of the happenings in the campaign funding, but I didn't know the intricate details. Then I'll come out yesterday saying, we don't even know if these emails are authentic. It just shows that nobody's talking to each other here.
Yeah, there's an unwillingness to say whether the emails are authentic or not, but they're also not outrightly saying that they're not authentic. Somebody needs to say something about these emails and tell us, you know, what they mean. But personally, what confuses me the most about the email saga is why the president thought it was important not to know who those funders were. Why not just say, I know who they are, but I know that things are above board. So by saying, I didn't want to know who they are and all sorts of things, he's put himself in a very precarious situation. Because, you know, you're working with a small campaign team. The chances that you're going to know things is high. And when we see emails that have lists and lists of people's names on it, you knew more than you're saying you know. And I think that it's become a red herring. I think it could have been avoided. But the most important thing that's come out of this is now we have an opportunity to really put a microscope on what happens in the internal politics and the funding of the internal politics. Because we have a bill coming out around party politics funding that's going to look at the party's bank accounts, but is not going to look at the candidates. And now we know that that's a loophole we have to address.
Unfortunately, that's where we need to leave it. Tessa Doos, good friend of the show, is joining us right now, political analyst. So let us know what your thoughts are regarding this matter. Do you feel like it has been put to rest, or is there a lot more still to come? At 405 Mornings is the handle. The hashtag is Breaking Down on 405. We'll be right back.